All right. Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast for the VikingAge.com, where we cover the Minnesota Vikings. My name is Adam Patrick. I'm the editor of the Viking Age, and I am joined, as always, by my co host, Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as zone coverage and bring me the news. It is draft week. We are finally here after 997 mock drafts. We have finally reached the draft week. We still got a few more days to go, so there will be more mock drafts, I'm sure. But before we get started, Chris, I just want to ask you maybe what was your first draft memory that kind of sticks with you growing up?
Okay, so I got two.
Okay.
My first one, like knowing what the draft was and everything else. I remember going to I don't know, it was a diner or whatever in Nelson, Wisconsin, just over the border.
Okay.
And I remember we were celebrating my great grandpa's birthday or something. And we had this newspaper, and I was reading the newspaper, and they were going nuts because the Vikings had taken this receiver in the first round of the draft by the name of Randy Moss. And then that fall, obviously Randy Moss took over. The Vikings exploded. And the following year, they took a quarterback named Dante Culpepper. So that would be, like, if we're talking about first overall draft memory, that would be it. The second draft memory that I have is a little bit more adult oriented, but it was in college. We got a keg for the draft. And this was like back in the day when it was like, it started at 11 a.m. and it just like ran all day. And like each pick was 15 minutes or whatever. So we had just turned 21. So we decided to get a keg for the draft. Well, what happened was we got in and our friends came in and they had two big duffel bags. And they came in, they set them on the ground. They opened them up and they were all 40 ounce, like 40s. So we're like, what is going on here? Like, we got a keg. And he goes, we drink the 40 like they run the 40. So later in that draft, that was the Darius Hayward Bay draft.
Oh, no.
So my friend Libby, his recollection of the draft is he's like, the last thing I remember was looking at the thing and being like, oh, they're taking Crabtree here, and hearing Darius Hayward Bay and then blacking out. So at that point, we went to go get Chinese food, and he threw pizza in the oven and passed out. So yeah, the draft, man, it's always my favorite time of year. It's always my favorite time of year.
I would say the Randy Moss thing is my first like memory that I can remember. But I grew up in upstate New York, so it was kind of different for me. Like I just heard it like on ESPN radio, like driving around. Just like they drafted Randy Moss, and I'm like, I think he's good. I think he's like, I think he's really good. So that's kind of cool.
When you're a kid, your barometer is like who's at the Heisman ceremony, right?
Yeah.
So like you're like, oh, Jason White, he's got to be good, right? No, he sucks actually because he's like 37.
So I knew he was kind of good. And I looked in like I used to like read the newspaper or whatever back then too. So when people actually did read the newspaper, so I would look in there and
well, thanks. It sounds like a great profession. I got.
Yeah. Hey, you know, online works well too these days for newspapers. But yeah, Randy Moss is definitely one. I remember having like an old, I want to say Sports Illustrated, where the Vikings picks were in there, and I want to say it was like 95 or 96 when they drafted like Derek Alexander in the first round. And then I think Warren Sapp was that year, and
was
they
that
passed
the
on
Dolman
him.
trade that they got that?
I don't know, but I know they passed on Warren Sapp, and they drafted like Derek Alexander instead. So that's awesome.
Can I share one more?
Yeah.
I know I've been talking all over you, but I mean, it's just fun because there's so many draft picks. I remember in 2007, I think that would have been Chili's second year. The entire draft process, the entire draft process being like, why would you take Adrian Peterson when you have Chester Taylor? I remember that Friday
what a question.
I know, right? Like You know what? If I had a DeLorean, the first thing I do is go back in time and kick my own ass. Like, just like, you're an idiot. Like, your sports takes suck. You're overweight. You're about 300 pounds. Why don't you go out and like talk to somebody for once instead of just playing PlayStation all the time in your dorm room? But hey, we all have regrets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Madden 06 or whatever was freaking bald. Anyway,
Michael Vick.
yeah. No, that was 04. He was the cover guy.
Oh, okay.
I know that.
I'm just saying
sure. Yes.
every man through those years, you just picked Michael Vick to just be your quarterback. So.
Run like 60 yards and throw 100. And yeah, you're good. I got the Sports Illustrated. Adrian Peterson was on the cover, and like it was at that moment, like I kind of just bought into it. So like the first 7 picks, I was working a 10-hour shift at Menards as like a cart person. So I'd go get the carts and I'd put it in there. Well, I was in the cart corral opening my flip phone because I had set up text alerts on my phone. So every time there'd be a pick, I'd get this text. So the Vikings wound up being on the clock. And of course, Adrian Peterson was on the clock. And I was like up front in the register helping somebody load, I don't know, a water heater into like a Buick or something stupid like that. Mm-hmm. I felt my phone go off and I like not even thinking, just whipped it out and like looked at it because I'm like, did they take him? Did they take him? So at that moment, I found out they took him and I was like, yeah, like I just like cheered, like forgetting where I was for a second. And the store manager was so upset. Like, we've seen you checking your phone. I want you to punch out for the same amount of time you've been checking your phone. And, flip. Okay, done in the pocket. Flip. Okay. So I punched out for like 2 minutes. And, in hindsight, I should have just said, no, screw you. Pay me my 2 minutes.
Yeah, you had those.
My job.
So you had like those ESPN alerts. I know, like back in the day, you could download like the ESPN app through Verizon, and it was like this dinky little. You could barely see it on your screen, and yeah, we're dating ourselves with our
these kids. These kids, they can just pull up Stephen A. Smith on demand now on their YouTube and their ESPN app, and
so lucky. All right, let's get into it. Hendon Hooker, you heard of him?
Yeah.
He's been connected to the Vikings quite a bit. I think Daniel Jeremiah is really the one who got it jump-started back in March with his mock draft, and everyone's like, oh, okay. Do we got to pay attention to this? And then a lot of people started just mocking Hendon Hooker to the Vikings, former Tennessee quarterback. So ESPN's Matt Miller, he came out with, I think it was a 7-round draft, which is insane. 7-round mock draft, which is just, I guess if you love the draft, it's not hard to do, but like,
and you're getting paid by ESPN. That helps you a little bit.
Yeah, it does. So he came out with his final 7-round mock draft. In the first round, he has the Vikings with a number 23 pick, not trading up or down or anything. 23 pick, selecting, you guessed it, Hendon Hooker. But he also included this interesting little tidbit in his explanation where he wrote, quote, one of the most popular texts I've gotten from evaluators throughout the past 10 days has been some form of, quote, watch the Vikings for Hendon Hooker, end quote. So, Chris, is this a big, giant, elaborate smokescreen from the Vikings that is just fooling every top draft analyst in the industry? Or are the Vikings really enamored with this Hendon Hooker? I don't want to call him a kid because he's not a kid.
Yeah.
This Hendon Hooker guy.
This man, Hendon Hooker, that's been Texas redshirted 2 or 3 times and held back in second grade and whatever. The one thing we need to kind of realize with all of these mock drafts and stuff is like there is so much smoke going on right now. There's a GIF GIF. What a GIF. I don't know. I usually say it one way and I just said it the other. I don't know. But I post something every year. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but it's like a GIF of Bray Wyatt like laughing in the smoke and like say NFL GMs be like, just week leading up into the draft because everybody's trying to fool everybody. Everybody has smoke screens. Everybody's trying to get people to think they're going to do not what they're going to do, but just try to bait somebody into trading up, right? So you look at a team like Seattle, or you look at a team like Tampa Bay, or another super needy team that needs a quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, like if they create the illusion that, hey, this Hendon Hooker guy, maybe they were looking at him in the second round. Now they're sitting there going like, I don't know if he goes past 23. That being said, the Vikings have tipped their hand throughout the offseason. It's like Kwesi's been wearing the reflective shades and like giggling as he's got like a 2 and a 7. Like, I got pocket aces. I'm going all in. Like, because you look at it, everybody knew they were going to release Eric Kendricks. Everybody knew they were going to release Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that they don't want to sign Kirk Cousins to a massive, fully guaranteed extension. And everybody knows that Kirk Cousins only wants massive, fully guaranteed extensions. Everybody knows that they're going to trade Dalvin Cook. Even their agent has telegraphed that they're going to trade Dalvin Cook. Everybody knows that the Vikings don't want Zadarius Smith. They probably do, but Zadarius Smith doesn't want to be there, which is why he telegraphed and said, hey, thanks everybody for my time. And the Vikings are probably like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They have been so transparent throughout this entire offseason that it would not surprise me if they went ahead and they took Hendon Hooker, even though it seems like a smokescreen, because the guy is a 4th round prospect, according to our friend Tyler Fornes. And his theory is that his agency, I believe it's CAA, has been like, hey, let agents, let's do each other a favor. Let's pump up Hendon Hooker, and everybody thinks he's going to go there. Remember last year, everybody was like, Malik Willis, he's going to be a top. They had him mocked at 2 to Detroit at this time last year. Yep. And then he fell into the 3rd round. So I don't really know what to think about Hendon Hooker anymore, but it would not surprise me if the Vikings actually do like him and they went ahead and made him the 23rd overall pick in the draft, or even traded up to get him.
I'll say this about Hendon Hooker. He played in the SEC at Tennessee, so that gives him an edge over someone like Malik Willis. So I would give him that over Malik Willis at the very least. But yeah, the connections, they just continue to be there, whether they're real or not. I've seen some people say that Hendon Hooker is like their 3rd ranked QB prospect in this draft class, over guys like Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. So there's some people that clearly view him as a top quarterback prospect. I've seen some mocks where he's going like 12 to the Texans, probably because, like you said, the Texans are afraid of waiting till the 2nd round when they have like the 34th pick, and he might be gone because maybe a team like the Vikings or the Saints grab him. But yeah, the connections are there. They keep being made, and they're not being made by like so-and-so from like the best NFL draft site ever.com. This is ESPN, this is NFL.com, this is CBS Sports, this is Fox Sports. Like, these are people that The Athletic, like, these are all people that have sources that talk to scouts, that talk to, executives that kind of have a better idea than, well, it doesn't mean that they know exactly, but this is, they're not just making these picks based on like, I think he might be a good fit here. They got a little bit of intel that tells them where some guys are going, and consistently, Hendon Hooker has been the Vikings pick at 23 for a lot of these legitimate mock drafts for the last few months. Now, you've been a big proponent against the Vikings drafting Hendon Hooker for multiple reasons. You mentioned age and his involvement in the offense at Tennessee, which is kind of not really suited for the NFL. And then, some other things as well. But I want you to kind of dig deep. Just give me one reason, if the Vikings get Hendon Hooker, why Vikings fans should be optimistic about Hendon Hooker as their quarterback.
Well, he's accurate.
Okay.
I have more. I just know because that's what people say when they think about Kirk Cousins. Well, he's accurate. And Hendon Hooker did complete 68% of his passes in college. But I have a theory on this because I thought this through. This quote from Matt Miller's mock draft made me think about this. Here it is. This is from him and then the talent evaluator. He's accurate. There it's that word again. And mobile, and he throws a beauty of a deep ball. As far as Hooker's ceiling, One NFL quarterbacks coach I spoke to believes Hooker can be a top 15 starter. Look at Jared Goff, Geno Smith, and Kirk Cousins. He has better all-around tools than those guys. The right system will help him from a talent, but from a talent perspective, he can be a top half of the league guy. It sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Not the bottom.
Doesn't that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
So when you hear that, you say, what's the difference between Hendon Hooker and Kirk Cousins? And why would the Vikings want to get Hendon Hooker over Kirk Cousins? Because, if they're not sold on Kirk Cousins, there has to be something they don't like about him in order to move on. Otherwise, they just pay him, correct?
Right.
It's the rookie pay scale. And that's a problem, because here's what they're thinking. You are paying a similar quarterback to Kirk Cousins, who the Vikings they've been on the record. They say, well, he's fine. He's a starting quarterback. He's fine, And then if you get a guy who is fine, you have that financial flexibility, about $32 million, according to Overcap. You can build your roster around him in free agency like the Bengals did, like the Chiefs did, like the Eagles did. Yep. Now, what's the difference between those teams I just listed and the Vikings? So let's say they take Hendon Hooker. Well, the Chiefs had Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals had Joe Burrow. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts. Those are three franchise quality quarterbacks with a huge ceiling. Hendon Hooker does not have that ceiling. In a best case scenario, you're hoping for Kirk Cousins 2.0. And you know what happens when you have this scenario where you draft a guy and he's just okay? You become the New York Giants. Because in the 2019 draft, the Giants took Daniel Jones 9th overall because they reminded him of Eli Manning. They put him in there. He floundered. Part of it was the coaching staff and whatever. Brian Daboll, greatest coach ever, according to a lot of people. He goes in there. He soups him up. Daniel Jones runs into Ed Donatell's defense. And now the Giants are paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year. The Giants' record in that rookie quarterback window was 21, 31, and 1. I am not done. Look at the Green Bay Packers. Look at the Green Bay Packers, because they had Aaron Rodgers. He was starting to get all weirded out. He was starting to do drugs, experiment with different things, like he was back in college or whatever. And they said that, hey, this Jordan Love guy looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers. Let's trade up for him in the 2020 draft and take him. Love hasn't even started for the Green Bay Packers. And if he's good, if he's even remotely good, if he runs into Ed Donatell again, I don't even think Ed Donatell's on the staff, but let's say they bring him in as a consultant and he just shreds the defense. He will get $40 million as well in his next contract, maybe a little less, but it's not the rookie quarterback window. The New York Jets, the team that Aaron Rodgers is going to go to, have gone 24 and 58 the last 5 years chasing a rookie quarterback window with Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. Drafting Hendon Hooker is like taking your 2000 Astor van with 200,000 miles on it and trading it in for a 2005 Astor van with 100,000 miles on it. Oh, by the way, did I mention Hendon Hooker is 25 years old and coming off a torn ACL? So when you say, hey, what's the positive of it? You save money. But what are you getting by saving that? Like, wouldn't you rather go take a swing on a guy that could be the man? And you might wind up like the New York Jets, but you know what? They're going to turn out okay because they're going to get a former MVP in there. They're going to have this giant infrastructure around him. And hey, it might work out. It might not, whatever. You know what'll happen next year? They'll just go and they'll take another quarterback. Like, I am not in the like. This is the problem with this whole franchise. They never aim for the very top. They aim for kind of towards the top. We don't want to win a Super Bowl. We want to be super competitive, right? We don't want to be the number one team in the NFC. Our top priority is winning the division and getting a home playoff game. And it puts them in the same spot every year. Hendon Hooker could be one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. We just don't know, because that's the magic of the draft. That's why so many people are going to have shows. They're going to log in. They're going to watch. They're going to blog. They're going to tweet until their fingers bleed. They're going to do all of this stuff. But everything that I see with Hendon Hooker tells me, best case scenario, he's just a guy. And honestly, as a Vikings fan, I am tired of that.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's very fair. We've been scarred by younger quarterbacks recently. Christian Ponder, Teddy Bridgewater, DeForest Jackson. But those guys weren't picked by the current regime that's in there right now, and I would like to give this regime a chance. I feel like they deserve that, especially last year after leading the team to 13 wins in their first year. I feel comfortable letting them get their guy. If it's Hendon Hooker, I'm going to have some doubts, but I'm also going to be like, hey, let's give them a chance to see what they can do with this guy because they just gave us Kirk Cousins' best season of his career. They came in and helped him lead the Vikings to 13 wins for like the fourth time in their history. So if they think Hendon Hooker can help them get to where they want to be, then I'm gonna let them try and do that. And then when they fail, then I'm gonna criticize them. But I'm gonna have doubts, but I'm also gonna, give them the chance because right now they earned that last year by leading this team to 13 wins. So that's all I'm gonna say on Hendon Hooker. And we will see on Thursday or Friday if he ends up with the Vikings. Another mock draft was recently released. This one from the Draft Network's Jamie Eisner. His is a little bit more interesting than Matt Miller's because he has the Vikings trading with the Houston Texans for the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. He doesn't give the details or anything. That would have kind of been important to include because it would have been nice to know what they gave up to get this pick. They trade up with the Texans to get the number 2 pick, and then the Vikings use that pick on former Kentucky quarterback Will Levis. In his explanation for the pick, Eisner wrote, quote, "I've heard loud rumblings that Minnesota is very active in trying to trade up for a quarterback, and I think they pull off a blockbuster here," end quote. How'd you react if the Vikings trade up for number 2 and then use it to draft Will Levis?
I think it gets back to what you just said about the regime,
Yeah.
right? If they identify Will Levis as their guy, you kind of have to give it a chance, don't you? Personally, I like Anthony Richardson as the pick if they make that deal. Although Peter King has Anthony Richardson falling all the way to 23 in the latest mock draft that dropped this morning. I think there's an actual paper trail connecting the Vikings to Will Levis.
Oh, yeah.
They made him hold a football for 20 minutes at the scouting combine. They were at his pro day. Hooker couldn't work out, so maybe they would have been at Tennessee's pro day as well if that were the case. Levis worked under Liam Cohen, who was on the Rams staff with Kevin O'Connell during their Super Bowl run, and also was Levis's offensive coordinator at Kentucky, I believe, 2 years ago. And I think because of all that, the Vikings know more about Levis more than most teams in this.
And the Rams probably know a little bit about
it. And the Rams probably, yes. I think, like, I wouldn't hate it. Like, even if the Vikings took Hooker, I think hate's a strong word for it because they're making a swing, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've seen for years, like the Vikings haven't. Excuse me, my nose is really going off right now.
You got that Kirk Cousins stuff going on still?
Yeah, I've been taking that frick all week long, man, getting ready for that draft. You take a big pull and frick! Kirk Cousins, greatest quarterback ever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this is really driving me up a wall. What was I even talking about? Well, or like they never take swings. Right. They never take swings. It's like Bo Levi Mitchell comes in. He's like, "I'd like to be the starting quarterback." And they went, "No, you don't. You're out of here, dude." Like, we could not push Kirk at all. Like, them taking anybody would be good because it's pushing towards something. Even though it may not be successful, it's taking a swing and it's taking a risk that the Vikings haven't made since they signed Kirk Cousins in 2018. So if it's Will Levis, if it's CJ Stroud.
I was going to say, you didn't mention CJ Stroud. I was going to ask you why you picked Richardson and Levis over Stroud.
I don't know. I just don't think, like, people are talking about the smoke with him. I don't think he's gonna fall as far as people are like projecting him to fall.
that smells very very team being like,
It's
I
like
want him to fall, so we're gonna make him look bad,
Houston.
and then
That team has to be
no,
Houston.
I don't think so, because he has the same agent as Deshaun Watson, and they don't. I don't think the Texans want to deal with that again. That's the word on the street, that they don't want anything to do with CJ Stroud, because he has the same agent as Deshaun Watson, which is hilarious because it makes it look like the Texans were the one that, created the problem with Deshaun Watson, when it's like, no, wasn't they enabled him, but it wasn't totally
Yes.
their fault. But yeah, CJ Stroud, like, his stock has, I guess, kind of fallen in the last few weeks, but it seems very timely. We're leading up to the draft. There might be a team, say like the Falcons, or who else is in there? The Raiders, the Lions. Maybe one of those teams is like, I don't know about this CJ Stroud kid. He might not be what you like, and then he falls, and then they get him, and they're like, haha, we got him.
Well, you know what I heard about CJ Stroud? I heard that one anonymous GM that I've spoken to said that he has this test every year, and he tapes $100 bill on the back of his playbook to make sure everybody had read through it. You want to know what the weirdest response to that was?
Yes, I already know. I saw
it. Was Anthony Richardson. And he looked through and he saw it at the back of the playbook, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't remember. That was a good job. Good one, guys." You want to know what the second weirdest response was? The kid took the $100 bill, gave it back to them, and said, "Save it when I win you the Super Bowl."
Listen, it
was Hendon Hooker.
Why is that weird?
It's Hendon Hooker.
That should be giving you confidence, right?
Trade up to 1 for Hendon Hooker. Cowards. If you really love him that much, you trade up to 1.
Who cares about Bryce Young?
Drive the point. Leave no doubt.
I think it was Mark Trestman today. He's with like the 33rd team or whatever, and his quarterback rankings posted today, and I think he had Will Levis at like 7, and CJ Stroud are like number 1, and Hendon Hooker and all them are in there somewhere. But I was like, Will Levis at 7? Who's in front of him?
What does Chris Sims think? He was a big Kellen Mond guy.
I think he likes Hendon Hooker. I think he likes him. I think he's number 4.
Avoid.
Yeah.
Avoid.
Or like Dorian Thompson-Robinson's number 4, and Hendon Hooker's like number 2 or 3. Yeah.
I'm telling you guys right now, Kellen Mond, he is better than Trevor Lawrence. I would have taken him number 1 overall. I don't know what these teams are doing. Like, I don't know. Don't trust the dude that once ruptured his spleen on the field.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He's yeah. I mean, nepotism. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, do you think he talks to his dad like with these quarterbacks? Hey, Dad, what do you think about this quarterback?
He's not known for the greatest opinions.
Or like Jax Collinsworth. Like, here's a guy whose dad worked in broadcasting, and now he's got a big job on NBC.
He does pretty good, though. I would say he does pretty good. Good work, Collinsworth or whatever. The younger one, because I think he does play-by-play. And I think he's doing XF. Is it XF? No, he's doing USFL. And sometimes he's going to have Mr. Kyle Rudolph in the booth. So let's give him a little work in
He
there.
doesn't strike me as like a color.
No, he doesn't. But, he's getting an opportunity. It's USFL. It's not like a lot of people are going to be watching. So they're like, all right, we'll give this guy a shot and see what happens. I think Cam Jordan's also doing it. And
okay.
Somebody else.
I could see Cam Jordan doing that. He's a talker.
Yeah. And a couple other people too. All right. So we got these 2 mock drafts. We got Hendon Hooker in the first one, and Will Levis. Oh, last thing. Would it even be smart for the Vikings to trade up to the number 2 pick, given how much they still have to fix their roster and the assets they'd be giving up to possibly move up? Because you're thinking multiple first-round picks, possibly more picks in this year's draft, and then maybe even a player, maybe like Danielle Hunter, who, from Houston. Just gonna throw that out there.
If they believe in a guy,
right,
I think they should do it. Like, you have to don't do it because, oh my God, we got to have a quarterback. Like Carolina was just like, oh my God, we got to find a quarterback in this. Trade up to 1. Trade up to 1 now. They need one, yes. But like they did it out of desperation, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the Vikings to do that. I want the Vikings to identify a guy and if that's the guy, if they have to move up to 2 to get him, you do it. Because if you have that guy we were just talking about with Mahomes and like Hurts and all those other guys, if you find the guy that is a game changer, you just fill out the roster through free agency. You go, you throw some money around because you'll have it to spend, and you elevate that prospect. And, if he reaches that Burrow, Mahomes, Hurts type of level, then you have a champagne problem, basically. Oh, we don't have any first rounders, but we have all our other picks. We can build around them, and we have a whole bunch of free agency to just plop guys in. So,
all right, we're just gonna go real quick by position groups. We're gonna do some over under here. Over under 0.5 for each position group, because they're either gonna draft 0 or 1 or more. For each position group, and I got let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 position groups. We'll just go over them one by one. You say over or under 0.5. We'll start with quarterbacks.
I have to point out, like, when I was preparing for this is really hard because I was like, yeah, over. And I'm like, oh yeah, the Vikings only have 5 picks.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, Vikings only have 5 picks right now. They could get more.
So I don't know if I have to be super ultra conservative.
No.
Quarterbacks, I'm going to say over. I think they take a quarterback not in the first round. I think they do it in the middle rounds.
Yeah, I'll go over with that too. I think that's pretty obvious with the moves that they made with Kirk Cousins this year. That they, they did sign Nick Mullins to a 2-year deal. So maybe they're.
Thank God.
Maybe they're gonna. He's the next in line.
Yeah, maybe he's the man.
Running backs.
Over, because I think the Vikings are trading Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. Well, he's gone. Dalvin Cook's gone no matter what, even whether they trade him or release him like they said they're going to do if they don't trade him. I'm going to go under because I think they're going to wait and see if they can get any undrafted guys because I think they're confident in Ty Chandler and they just re-signed Alexander Madison. Wide receivers.
Over.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely over.
I think they draft 1. I don't know when it's going to be though.
I think day 1 or day 2. I think day 3 is too late. I think you got Jalen Naylor last year in the 5th round. That's your day 3 guy. If you want a receiver to make an impact, I think you need day 1 or day 2. Tight ends.
Under.
Yeah, I think they're good. They got Johnny Munn.
They can slam some beers too, man. I don't know if
I didn't even ask you that. I forgot that opening question about TJ Hawkinson. But yeah.
Well, sure. I'll ask it right now. Who would you rather? Because we discussed this and I didn't see it on the outline. Right. I'm like, maybe he's got this little thing. Totally forgot. Sure, if it was a trivia question, you would have remembered it. True. But I was wondering. I asked you this weekend. Who would you rather go to a game with? Would you rather go to sit courtside at a Timberwolves game with Adam Thielen, or go to a Wild game with TJ Hawkinson and sit in the lower bowl?
It's a no-brainer. It's TJ Hawkinson. And hockey live. I feel like hockey live is just better than basketball live. Anyways, it's more excitement, and I just feel like I've always enjoyed hockey live. It's one of the few sports I like watching live. I don't like watching football in person live. It's just, I don't know. It's just not the greatest if you compare it to hockey and basketball. But yeah, TJ Hawkinson, he looked like he was having the time of his life. It's not. There were lots of tweets saying he was just buying beers for everybody, and just enjoying himself. So good for him. If he fits,
taking photos, like he was a man of the people. Yeah. Like I feel like if you went to the Timberwolves game with Adam Thielen, he would be the dude who would be like, "Well, I bought the seats. Like, you want to grab some beers?" And or like his phone would just not stop buzzing because like, "Oh, sorry, I got another one. Oh yeah, pick up milk."
Hawkinson also looks like he is a hockey player, like a Minnesota hockey player. He's got the beard, he's got the long hair, like he could suit up. He's probably similar size to some of those guys on the ice too. So
he's like 6'5". I don't think he's the similar size as like
Zadina,
most of those guys are like 6'3", like
how big was
217 or whatever.
Zadino Chara?
Okay, that's like an outlier. He's like 7 foot tall on skates. Like Marcus Foligno, who by the way played like a moron last night. I just want to.
What's the series? 2-1.
2-2.
2-2. Okay.
They were up 2-1, and then they lost last night because they had like 20 or 25 breakaways and couldn't convert on any of them. And then Marcus Foligno, everybody's mad because like that's the big thing in Minnesota now. Now the Minnesota motto is now refs you suck, because every time somebody goes down, it's obviously a penalty. Marcus Foligno is 6'3", 226 pounds. So TJ Hawkinson is way bigger than Marcus Foligno. And there's also the whole thing where if you're playing a team that is diving to the point where you're complaining about it, why are you charging across the ice, down a goal, by the way, trying to deliver the biggest hit of all time on one of the Stars players, whiffing, getting smoked in the face with the stick, and then bitching about, well, the penalty. And maybe it shouldn't have been a penalty, but why are you putting yourself in that situation?
We're getting off the rails here. It's Vikings podcast. But yes,
wait until they take Hendon
you
Hooker
would,
on
right.
Thursday.
You would pick Hawkinson, right? It's a no-brainer.
I would totally pick Hawkinson.
Like, this is so easy. I would go to a basketball game with TJ Hawkinson too.
I would too. Yes. Would he bring? And do you think he'd bring his friends too? Sure. Like Josh Oliver and Nick Muse are just, you guys, all right, let's ball out. The boys are here. Let's do it.
All right, back to over-unders. 0.5. Offensive tackles.
I thought about this. If they had more picks, I would say over, just because of Brian O'Neill's injury. I think they take one late, and I think they need some depth at the position. But I'm going to go under just because they don't have the draft capital right now.
I'm going to go over because they signed Ali Udoh. It's a 1-year deal. That doesn't mean he's going to make the team. And they have like Blake Brandel and Vidarian Lowe. So I'll just go over. Yeah, I think the Brian O'Neill thing, you just gotta prepare yourself. You don't know, because I think he's coming off what, Achilles.
Partially torn Achilles.
Yes, that's not
doesn't sound like fun.
Not something to mess around with. So he might, they're saying he's on track or whatever, but you never know with those injuries. Guards and centers.
I think they take one. Over. Sorry, I forgot the rule of the game. They signed Garrett Bradbury to a 3-year extension, but there's a lot of funny money on the back end. And I think that's the thing. And they're in a good spot because if they don't see a center they like, they can wait. I like Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas in the later rounds. He's a good zone center. They also have continuity along the offensive line for the first time in a long time, because we know who the 5 starters are. So even if Ed Ingram sucks, I mean, I think they want to add a little bit more competition, but it's not. In all likelihood, the 5 guys that are going to be starting at the beginning of camp are going to be starting at the beginning of the season.
I said that. So, even if he sucks, in my head, I'm like, well, yeah, because now the guys who are around him already know he's going to suck, so they're used to it. So
they're ready.
Continuity. Defensive lineman.
Over. They lost Alvin Tomlinson. And I think that's a bigger loss that nobody's talking about. The defensive end, they need some badass shit wreckers in the trenches, because they've been doing this whole Shamar Stephen, world's greatest nose tackle thing. He just does his job type of thing. I think that role is kind of what this defense needs. But you look at I'm getting ahead of myself. Brian Flores's defense, one of the guys that was kind of a main cog in it was Vince Wilfork, who is a BMF right in the middle of the line, just blowing dudes up. I think they take a defensive lineman, and if they stay at 23 and don't trade down, I can see him taking Kalijah Cansey out of Pittsburgh. Or a guy that I would be looking at is Michigan's Maisie Smith, who's I think he was number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's 345 pounds. Big dude. I think they take a defensive lineman.
I'm gonna say no. I think they like Tonga. He's kind of young too still. They have Harrison Phillips. I don't think it's a priority. I think they have a lot of guys on the roster that they like. So I'll go under for that one. Edge rushers.
It depends on what happens with Danielle Hunter. Like if they wind up, I said in my 6 bowl draft predictions, which you can go read right now at the Viking Age, it's up and running. I said the Vikings would trade him, but I go back and forth on this because I feel like they're going to work it out with Hunter, but let Zadarius Smith go. So then you have Marcus Davenport and Daniil Hunter
about him, yeah.
as your edge rushers. And in that case, like I think edge rusher would be taken if they acquire more picks somehow.
Yeah.
So with what they have right now, I'll say under, but if they make a trade, I could easily see that being over.
Yeah, I'm gonna say under. I don't think there's enough maybe like worthwhile edge rushers in this draft. At least in the top half of this group, for them to like go after trade up wise and stuff like that. I don't think that it's worth it for them. They have bigger fish to fry. Hey, and don't forget about Patrick Jones II. I think he's been on the come up. He's been doing pretty good as well.
Breaking news. The New York Jets have completed a trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Finally.
The Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers, the 15th overall pick in the draft, a 2023 fifth round pick, number 170.
The Jets are getting the 15th pick and Aaron Rodgers?
Hang on. It's a pick swap.
Okay.
So the Packers are getting picked. So the Packers are moving up 2 spots in the draft. They're also getting a second round pick, number 42, a 6th round pick, number 207, a conditional 2024 second round pick that becomes a first if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, which he will.
Yeah.
So, Aaron Rodgers, now a New York Jet.
That's not terrible. That's not a terrible trade.
No, I think it's a fair trade for both sides. So, and the Packers move up 2 spots.
See ya. Bye. Yeah. He's gone.
Now Jordan Love's
play
the for the next 15 years. He's like sitting there right now, and like all of a sudden, like Aaron probably like put his hand on his shoulder, and like his eyes went all white, like the Undertaker. No, well, not like the Undertaker because he just like rolls his like die.
They just have like this I don't know, like this. I want to say like a special super rock or whatever that you put in like your chest or whatever that makes you into like a MVP quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers just took his out and gave it to Jordan.
It's Love didn't Iron Man have like a lithium battery as his heart or something like that? Something like they just like plug it in and then it glows and shit.
Here you go.
Just like
you're next.
Yeah, the Packers have found the secret sauce.
All right, so he's gone.
He's gone.
I haven't watched an NFL season with Aaron Rodgers not on the Packers since I was in high school.
Yeah, I would have been in college. I remember.
2000.
I remember
he got drafted what? 06?
He got drafted 05.
Okay,
and then he sat 3 years.
I graduated 05. High school. So wow, it's all been a long time.
It's jarring. So like, I don't mean to kind of spin off into a tangent here, but it's almost kind of jarring now that it happened.
Yeah,
and like I don't know how to feel about it. It's real now. It's not this like made up thing.
Yeah, it happened.
And it's kind of like, you look at the Packers now with Jordan Love.
Also, what were they waiting for?
I hope he's not good, man.
What were they doing the last 3 weeks? It was like, nah. Just like, what are you doing? Just make a trade.
It did seem pretty simple. It seemed a little complicated. Maybe there were like a couple of tweaks there. Like, okay, maybe they agreed on the pick swap right away. And then they're well, no. And I think the Jets have multiple picks. And then the conditional ones, like, we want it to be 63%. No, we want 64. Well, how about 65? What about 68? You want it? No. Like, you know how, I mean, do you play Dynasty Fantasy Football at all?
No, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, where you may have like a trade like mostly figured out, but then you have this other guy who just trades like all the first round picks this other owner, and everybody's just kind of like, how is he good year in, year out? I don't understand. He's always got young talent and first round picks.
This is good for.
Glad I left that league, but yes.
This is good for Randall Cobb. He knows where he's going to play next season.
He's somewhere just like fist pumping somewhere in Kentucky or something, just like
honey, we're going to New York.
Yes.
We're going to
Here
New
we
York.
go. I did want to see the Jets not be able to pull off the trade though, and like sign Randall Cobb and be like, the hell are we going to do with Randall Cobb? Like, shit.
Yeah. So, all right.
But
Nathaniel Hackett gets his guy. Finally. Took him 2 years, but
he's probably very smiling positive about it. Should we
yeah.
get back to this like game now?
I think we're gonna skip the rest of it, and we're just gonna go right to the last topic that I have is just where I want you to predict. Just give me a player.
I wanted you to ask me how many punters the Vikings were going to draft.
I'm not gonna do that. Who? Before we get out of here, who will the Vikings take with their first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft? I wish I had like the ESPN chimes, like whatever it goes.
They're going to trade down from 23 out of the first round.
Okay.
And they're going to trade back up into the first round to take Hendon Hooker.
The 30th or 31st pick.
30th, 30. They will. Hendon Hooker is their guy. And if they do it that way, if it works out, they'll have their guy. They'll have their picks in the sweet spot. And they'll win like 9 games next year with Kirk Cousins. And then they'll turn it over to Hendon Hooker.
Hold on, let me see who's got. Let's see. What's the draft order? Let me see real quick. The Saints are number 10. Tennessee's 11.
Can I ask you a quick question now that the Rodgers trade is done?
Yeah.
Do you think the Packers move up for a quarterback now?
No.
I don't think you can rule it out.
No, you can't. You can't rule it out. But I don't. Yeah, they're gonna go like get Anthony Richardson and just piss everybody off. Yeah.
I was gonna say that they were going to block the Vikings from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. So no, all right. So the Eagles have the 10th pick. I was mistaken. They got it from the Saints. The Eagles have the 10th pick. So I think the Vikings are going to trade with the Eagles because Kwesi still has some friends in that building to get the number 10 pick, and they're going to get Anthony Richardson. So that's my pick. Hopefully, either him or I guess Will Levis. There is that connection there with the former Kentucky OC and Kevin O'Connell. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. But we both pick quarterback. So we will see.
I think it's going to be a quarter. I would be shocked if they just like stayed at 23 and took like a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Like it would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Like I would actually laugh.
All of this
just for Kalijah Cansey,
Brian Breezy or
Brian
whatever.
Brees,
yeah, whatever.
Or they're gonna take a punter.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a receiver, but it's gonna be like the kid from North Carolina. Like, what's his name? Josh Downs.
Yeah. Slot only, baby.
All right, let's get out of here. Me and Chris will be back probably next Monday. I will be back on here on Thursday with the fan-sided NFL crew, and we'll be reacting probably live to the Vikings pick, whoever they pick, whenever they pick. So keep an eye out for that. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel on here and like this video. Follow the Vikings on Twitter and Facebook, and the audio version of this podcast will be available by the morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, Chris and I talk to you later.